Like even then, like I would applaud. Marvin Jones came on my show and said brought something up. This is the first senior class, and God knows what at Florida State history that doesn't know what it's like to have a winning season. Like in 40 something years. Like that's a long time to go. But again, a bowl game would have been great. But I don't know what it's like to not have played in the January 1st bowl. Like, like, their choices would have been slim. Like Shreveport. I don't even know where Shreveport is. But like, let alone like I played in the worst bowl I played in is in the city that I live in currently, Jacksonville. And like right now, that would be like the best bowl game they've played in the last decade. I played in Miami on January 2nd. Like we were must see TV.
You played Miami twice.
And like twice. Yeah, I played Miami twice. I played in the Sugar Bowl. Left New Orleans drunk, overweight, and out of shape. Same way I left as a pro. But I had a great time. Like this is what that's the standard. And granted, I can change my expectations to where it can get to the standard. But if you don't have standards in your own life, and that's my problem with interacting with people, is that I view my entertainment the same way, which is this is what it is. I view my entertainment the same way I view my life. If it's not up to standard, why am I watching it? Like, why would I be like in day to day? And I have expectations for it. If I spend thousands of dollars to be a booster, I should have expectations that my little $1,000 return will be, give me some enjoyment and not have my son see us lose to a FCS school. But like I said, there was some great times. Like the Miami game was amazing. The Clemson game had great moments of bonding and watching it over TV. But
The
like you
UMass
see,
game.
you brought up a good point, Jay.
UMass game was
I
phenomenal.
didn't watch that.
It's the most points we scored in
I'm not even gonna lie to you. Pretend like I watched that. But like the UMass game, like Jordan Travis. People say like I saw somebody post Florida State doesn't throw enough for a quarterback to want to come or a wide receiver to want to come. And then I went and I showed 44, 40, 29, 33, 25, 29. I think all but three games, excuse me. Three games we were under 20 passes. Two of those games were two of the highest scoring games we've had at Florida State this year. One being Notre Dame, one being UMass, where we threw 15 passes and beat a team 55-3. And I think we didn't throw that much against Clemson. But like when Jordan Travis, when somebody's open, Jordan Travis can hit them. Like it's when it's very difficult for us to get open. But like I look at this like if Jordan, I don't understand. Like that's the real angry part. Like why Jordan Travis didn't play the entire year. I'm not saying he's the greatest quarterback in the world. I think he has talent. I think he's the best quarterback in our system. But like UMass, we saw 5 throws from a quarterback that throws like Al Bundy. That's no longer here with us. That was Chuba Purdy, who we knew what he was, and all of a sudden everybody's like trying to get rid of the guy who the only games we've won in the last 2 years, the only games we haven't been blown out in, he's been the starting quarterback, and it's just it's wild. It's just our fan base is interesting. Again, I hear what you're saying about Fuller, um, and the critiques are fair. I just don't think it's as bad as what people think. Um, I think we don't critique our offense anywhere near enough, as much as we critique our defense. But I think that's partially because we have an offensive minded coach, and people feel like you can't critique the offense because you're critiquing Mike, and Mike is uncritiquable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you critique him, it means you want him fired,
Oh,
which
absolutely.
isn't the case. It just means that we can't score more than 24 points consistently, and that's not like what I expect the offensive genius
Mm.
that been deemed to be to be able to do.
And I think the offense played better at points this season than last season. I think that's why the offense does get a slight break. But I want to go back to something that James said for a moment. He mentioned obviously the news that came out today was that Florida State is looking to move on from David Coburn as the athletic director. And there's one word that comes to mind when I think of David Coburn. First of all, love his wife, great family, great people. The word I think of when I think
Only reason I'm at Florida State is because of his wife.
absolutely, she's a great lady. The word I think of when I think of David Coburn is a hypocrite, and I'm going to tell you why. When, as James said, when Willie Taggart was fired with a 9-12 record, he was told, he said to the media, 6-6, as James said, 6-6 is not the standard. 6-6 is not acceptable. But then when we are starting off this season 0-4 with Mike Norvell as the head coach, all of a sudden we're sticking with Mike Norvell, we're sticking with Mike Norvell, we're sticking with Mike Norvell. Now, do I think Mike Norvell should have been fired? No, I absolutely don't. And Mark and I have talked about that. I thought he should have been given a third season. I believe he should be given 3 seasons as a coach. But as James has said before, the standard is the standard. If the standard is going to be the same for one coach, it has to be the same for all coaches. If you're going to say 6-6 is not acceptable for Willie Taggart, why is 0-4 acceptable for Mike Norvell? Right now, Mike Norvell, now let's just say it. Mike Norvell has a win against a team from the state of Florida. He has a rivalry win over Miami. He has a win over a ranked team in last year's win over North Carolina when they were ranked number 5 nationally. He also has an 8-13 all-time record at Florida State through 21 games. One game worse than what Willie Taggart had when you fired Willie. Am I saying Mike Norvell should be fired? No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying if you're going to have the standard for one, you have to have the standard for all. That's why next season is so important. Next season you have – now here's what the benefits happen for Florida State. Florida's at home. Clemson's at home. Wake Forest is at home. Yes, you have to go to Miami. Tyler Van Dyke will be back, but he loses several key weapons, and that defense is young, but they will return a couple guys, but they also lose their offensive coordinator. You go to LSU in New Orleans, but LSU is going to be rebuilding. I don't want to see Brian Kelly again, but that's what we're going to have to deal with on that one. So the schedule is a little bit more favorable next season if the offense can continue to get better, if the defense can continue to grow. But the standard has to be the same for everyone. If you're going to sit here and say 6-6 is not good for Willie Taggart, why is 5-7 okay for Mike Norvell? That would be my simple question. If I had one question to ask David Coburn, why is it good for one and not good for another? And if you can't come up with an answer, then you need to be replaced. And it's not just a football thing. You could look, was Mike Martin Jr. the best coach to be hired as the head baseball coach once his dad left? Probably not. They probably should have looked outside the family, but they made the hire that was right in the next office over. Are there a lot of issues that's going on in the athletic department? Absolutely. This is not just a football thing with David Coburn. But from the football aspect, if 6-6 is not good for Willie Taggart, why is 5-7 okay for Mike Norvell?